Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Zainab Bala.
And I'm Ayuba Ilya. It's always good to have you join us this, I would say, it's Wednesday morning. It's always a pleasure having you around to talk about some of the latest happenings in our world. The Daybreak Show brings you latest happenings, discussions, analysis on all the major issues. And if today is your first day of joining us on the show, then we want to welcome you specially. Today is bright, I believe, even though we woke up to some kind of rain this morning, yes. But hopefully it's going to be a great day today.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Today we will be looking at Pandora's investigation, and we'll be joined by Adebayo Hassan, investigative reporter with Premium Times, and also we'll be talking to Awal Rafsanjani, executive director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, to look at some of the recent investigations that have been conducted, and we saw some damning reports, really, some very, very strong allegations about certain personalities, and we want to do that. But before we will do that, let's go on this quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the front covers of our newspapers.
This is the spot, a marking signifying the starting point of the dam. No, somebody? No, sorry. 40. No compensation has been given to any community member, and no place has been earmarked for their relocation.
Since why they go, they never come back.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed. But for many years, the story has remained the same. This is the site of the proposed hydroelectric power station in Mambila. But the irony is, no construction has even commenced yet.
Yes, in our usual tradition, we'll always have a throwback to see what happened on this every day, of the month in history, in world history in particular. So we'll be taking a look at, the events that happened on the 6th of October in world history. Take a look. All right, there you have it today in history. Now, quite interesting things happened. Over here in Nigeria, we had Oko Ebutu Ikwe, Ukiwe, who was born on the 22nd of October 1940. He's a retired commodore in the Nigerian Navy who served as the de facto vice president of Nigeria under military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, from 1985 to 1986. Ikwe was born on the 26th of October 1940, son of Chief Bitu Ukiwe of Abiriba in Abia State. His father was a traditional ruler in Abiriba and head of the old Bende Division Local Government Appeal Court. During the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, he fought on the Biafran side. Now, after the war in January 1972, he was readmitted to the Navy, one of the few Igbo officers to regain their position. Ukiwe was a member of the Supreme Military Council between 1975 and 1977. General Olusegun Obasanjo appointed him military governor of Niger State in 1977. He was redeployed to Lagos State as governor in July 1978, holding this post until October 1979. He was also in the Supreme Military Council under General Muhammadu Buhari at the time from 1983 to 1985 while serving as Flag Officer, Western Naval Command. He was also appointed Director, Naval Faculty, Jaji, and Flag Officer, Western Naval Command between 1984 to 1985. Now, in 1985, following the 1985 Nigerian military coup d'etat, military head of state General Ibrahim Babangida appointed Ukiwe as Chief of General Staff and his second in command. In 1986, Commodore Ebitu Oko Ukiwe was removed as Chief of General Staff. Now, quite a history there. I mean, talking about the aftermath of the Civil War, we saw the repositioning of this military officer back to his position. Recall what the then administration of Gowon declared: no victor, no vanquish. The 3 R's that he called rehabilitation, restoration, and the 3 R's. Very good. Reconstruction. Thank you. So those were the things that led to that happening, and today we have Nigeria as one. So if you haven't heard about this, well, if this is your first time, just know that prices were paid for Nigeria to remain together, and that's why we're still Nigeria. Now we will be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll do that shortly after the short break, and we have Sunday Michael, the Deputy Editor, Business Daily Trust newspaper, to join us and review the stories that made the headlines. Join us again.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, a load of 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day.
For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now let's look at our dailies for today, starting with Daily Trust newspaper. Right at the top, we have federal government raises 2022 budget estimate to 16.45 trillion naira. We also have Igbo in diaspora, not IPOB, behind sit-at-home order. This is according to Southeast governors. And the big headline there says, corruption leaks, pressure mounts on Buhari to probe Bagudu, Obi, others. And the rider says CSOs, lawyers demand special panel. We also have reach out to EFCC. That's according to Justice Ministry presidency. We also have we are studying reports, ICPC, CCB, EFCC silent. Law should take its course, APC, PDP, mom. And we also have Anambra governorship. INEC defies IPOB insists on November 6th election. Senate clears EFCC nominee who started school 1 year before birth. Wow. Then we also have B.Ed students in public universities to get 75,000 per semester. Oh, wow. And down there we have 30 killed as Ansaru terrorist bandits clash again in Kaduna. That's all we have on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Well, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning as well. We have some of the stories there. Say the first one at the very top. EFCC probes 157 billion naira pension fund fraud. You'd also find PDP chair zoning to North gains more support. You'd see Mark is front runner. 180 million telephone lines linked with NIN. You'd find also education students to get 75,000 stipend. That's very encouraging. Fallout of what we were saying yesterday while we celebrated the Teachers Day yesterday. Just, there's just need for us to find a way to encourage more people to give attention to the educational sector. And I hope that this will be followed through to the latter. You'd see killings, violence, Southeast governors revive Ebubeagu. Revive Ebubeagu. That's that's strange because, I mean, is it up to 1 year old? Ebubeagu? I'm not sure it's up to 1 year old and we're already reviving it. Interesting. The writer there says diaspora Igbo behind sit-at-home calls. You'll see also Oyetola presents 129.7 billion naira 2022 budget estimates to Osun lawmakers. The lead story on The Nation, Buhari's 16.45 trillion naira budget 2022 pushes deficits to 7.9 trillion naira. The writers there, projected revenue is 8.53 trillion naira. President seeks review of MTEV FSP, and also you'd find lawmakers may get document tomorrow. At the very bottom, police parade, 2 suspected kidnappers in Abuja, 6 minors held for abduction. You'd also see that these are the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, let's head straight to the Punch newspaper today. Right at the top, we have Nigerians face airfare hikes. Foreign airports impose 950 billion naira charges. We also have budget. Federal government lowers revenue projection by 342 billion naira. 6 MTEF amendment. And we also have be prepared for 7-day isolation in UK. Federal government tells Nigerian travelers. I think this is following the exclusion of Nigerian certificate and COVID-19 certificates by the UK government. We also have Nigeria records 6,746 cases of COVID-19 vaccine side effects. That's a new one. And the big headline there says, teachers' new salary scale. States NUT on collision costs as government cites cash crunch. And the rider says NUT dismisses state's excuses, says only governors against teachers won't on a new scale. Ogun Ekiti base implementation on availability of funds. Benue banks on increased allocation. And we also have 11-member kidnap gang operating from Kano motor parks smashed. That's it on the Punch.
All right. On the Guardian newspaper this morning, at the very top above the lead story, you would see teachers threaten strike over minimum wage. Buhari presents 2022 budget tomorrow, sends revised MTFF. You would see controversy trails EFCC's arrest of Ganduje's wife for alleged fraud. Southeast governors move to end IPOB's seat at home. The lead story says used vehicle prices soar over freight clearing charges FX. You would see the riders there saying Nigeria spent 601.51 billion naira on importation of vehicles in HI 2021. Freight rate high because shipping airlines charge for import-export on single trip. Clearing of vehicles in Nigeria extremely expensive, cheap in Ghana, Benin, Togo. Those are the riders there that follow the story. You'd see also PIA adjustments raise 2022 budget to 16.4 trillion naira. Fresh concerns constrain implementation of PIA. Nigeria's direct funding of oil exploration pure madness, says ex-NAC boss. Oil minister seeks urgent actions on litigations to avert divestment by IOCs. Those are the major stories, and then at the very bottom you'd find a story there saying name National Assembly members sponsoring terrorism, reps challenges Buhari. You'll find that story on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper.
Okay, before we go into review of these papers, let's take a look at the last paper, which is the Daily Sun. We have right at the top, Southeast governors, leaders roar, vow to end killings, sit at home. And the big headline says, PDP chair, leaders zero in on Mark. And the writer is saying, Babangida Aliyu Makarfi in strong contention. And below that, we have immigration seeks court's nod to file fresh evidence against ex-Rivers Governor Odili on passport seizure. We also have gunmen kill DSS officer, 2 vigilantes burn vehicles in Imo, Enugu. Federal government begins implementation of new retirement age for teachers. And then we have 2022 16 trillion naira budget, largest in Buhari's 6 years. And below that, we have Anambra Guba, INEC, NSA raise fresh alarm over deteriorating security.
All right, we'll be going into the reviews proper now. And like I told you, we have our newspaper reviewer for the day is Sunday Michael Ogu, Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Good morning, and it's good to have you join us.
Welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. Now let's take a look at some of the stories that made the headlines hit there. The lead story on the Daily Trust, will be looking much deeper into that story with our other guests. But there are other stories of interest here, like the one on education. Yesterday was
World Teachers Day.
World Teachers Day. And we are waking up to these new promises about education students in public universities to get 75,000 naira. I hope that this is not just something to excite, students and, people who love education.
I am excited, even though I'm not a teacher, so you can imagine what the plight of people who are there, because the truth is, yes, it is designed to excite, it is designed to encourage, it is designed it is supposed to be some kind of incentive, and this is something we have been missing for a very long time. Say for Nigeria, every country that desires to move forward places premium on education. On the one hand, the quality and working condition of your teachers. On the other hand, encouraging people to take it up as a profession. Because we have treated teachers very badly, for all of us, even as young people, the last thing you want to encourage your child to do is to take up any profession in that teaching line, because I mean, you can't imagine how that child is going to survive as an adult.
I recall very well back in the university, sending students or applicants to the education department is more like saying, well, the rest of you who we cannot give you,
go to this place where nobody wants to take,
and all of that. Just go there. It's like,
that was what it felt.
Of treatment.
Yes, that was what it felt like up to the late 90s. So if you don't meet up the cutoff mark for what is supposedly the competitive professions, and because they already have employed people to teach in those departments, they just basically refer every other person everywhere. So it became sort of a dumping ground for people who ab initio did not aspire to do these things, and maybe just for the sake of wanting to be in school took it up. And what happens at the end of the day is you get quite a few who becomes convert. The other one simply say, okay, let me pick up this BSc or B.Ed, and when I go out there, I could find a way to switch into something I really desire. So I think it's a welcome development, really.
Okay, now the government is citing cash crunch, to implement the new salary scale for teachers. Could you wrap up? What do you think that this move is aimed at?
It will be difficult to get to a time where they will have enough cash, And I think most of the complaints are coming from the state governments, finding it difficult to meet up with some of these conditions that the teachers are asking of globally. The teachers' demand is that whether you are in Yauri or you are in some creek in Port Harcourt or some hinterland, you should be treated with some level of dignity, similar to your contemporaries in the big cities of Abuja, Lagos, and the rest of them. So don't give us this disjointed treatment. They wanted to negotiate something on a national level and then pass it on to the state government as platform. But as we have always done with the state government, it is not just even giving excuse about the new arrangement. It is they are even finding it difficult to keep up with what we currently have. Some states are owing 6-7 months, some others 11 months. As we speak, teachers' welfare, teachers, everything that concerns schools and teachers, as far as the states are concerned, have been relegated to the background because they do not understand the implication of keeping that aspect of our national life on the front burner. If you go to places like Turkey, to some European countries and in the US, teachers are the highest paid. It's a profession that comes with a lot of dignity and respect, but not in this case. I mean, the moment anybody walks up to your family, a prospecting suitor, and they said, "What's your profession?" You say you're a teacher. The first thought that runs through the minds of the family is, "I hope our daughter would not end up getting stabbed in this kind of house." So it paints the kind of picture of the reality of people in that profession.
Sad indeed.
Now, there are those who say that, look, this teaching profession, yes, it's supposed to be a priority and all of that, and we are not given that priority. Some say politicians are reluctant. There's no will to prioritize teaching, maybe because the impact of training a child, it takes quite a while for you to really begin to see it, because, for instance, you're raising a child from primary. You may not see the immediate results of giving that quality education until maybe the child is about 25, 30, and all of that. Do you think that that's part of the reasons why we see this reluctance?
I see it from a multidimensional perspective. There is a deliberate attempt to undermine education. That's the way I call it, because the same politicians who have chosen not to make this a priority send their children to the UK. So when you put it on a scale, how do you balance that out? What are they seeking for in the UK? Is it just the prestige of schooling abroad? It's because they are going for quality. So they've completely bastardized what you have back home, and the only way to give their children what they think would be reckoned with anywhere in the world is to send them abroad on our own hard-earned money. We are subsidizing the education of their children. So on the one hand, it would be a cheap excuse for me, if you ask me, to think that it is because we are not seeing the value. Education is not cheap. It is the second thing for me. It's because we have promoted mediocrity and we have celebrated tokenism. So people just emerge from anywhere and they end up in political office. So if they can come up from anywhere, they can as well do anything.
Talking about mediocrity, we are seeing also another story. That Senate clears EFCC nominee who started school 1 year before birth.
Classic example.
I mean, how?
Classic example. There is no way, if we if we remain here for another 24 hours, we can never wrap our heads around these things. Somebody whom is established, allegedly, falsified his date of birth, and on comparison, he then showed that he was educated even before he started going to school even before he was conceived. And with this starking, repulsive reality, an assembly that is supposed to be a representation of you and I looks away and puts their seal on it. What does it speak to? It shows that they really don't regard us. They don't even understand that they are representing us, and they don't care what the repercussions will be.
Terrible. Let's take a look at one big headline. The Nation has picked this. Other dailies have also picked that as a big headline, where it says Buhari's 16.45 trillion budget 2022 pushes deficit to 7.9 trillion naira. What does this mean for Nigeria?
The possibility of more borrowings. Yeah. So from the benefit of a business editor, I was looking at the breakdown of that figures. And basically what it means is they had initially proposed to spend 13 trillion. And now, for whatever reason, they are saying, we want to jack it to 16 trillion. So they are jacking it by about 2.7 trillion extra. And the same statement, they are saying, from all our projections, we are only able to raise about 8-point-something trillion. What it then means is that the other 7-point-something trillion that we need, that we are planning to spend, will have to come from other sources. Very likely borrowings and more borrowing. So that is what we see. And they hinge it on a lot of things. They think that because we are going into an election year, they are supposed to raise this big amount of money for INEC to prepare ahead of next year's election, which is valid, about 100 billion. I saw somewhere that government ministries and agencies are owing power holding companies about 38 billion of that sum. So they've decided to also clear those backlog. Somewhere there are also quite a number of things that came in that they think will be instructive. But beyond all of these fiscal languages, we also understand that we are going into an election year. Usually it's a period for
I've seen elsewhere as well that they're doing this because of the amendment to the PIA.
Well, the amendments, yes, but the amendment did not cause this huge 2.7 trillion naira difference. So what it is, prior to the PIA, there is this 13% derivation that's supposed to go to oil-producing states. The new PIA frames that money in a different form. That was the argument about 3% and 5%, if you recall. So it's a different kind of calibration, In some cases, they will even be getting more money. It means they will not be spending as much as they used to do. In some other places, their estimates are short of what they had expected. So a bit of calibration, yes, but some political analysts have also argued that they are going into an election year. Some projects will require a bit more spending to bring them to fruition as a way of presenting a scorecard to say, hey, we have done A, B, C, and X, Y, Z, and for that reason, you can trust us even more.
And this brings back the argument of, shouldn't we be considering how to reduce the cost of running an election in our country, looking at the times that we're in now?
So you recall, about a fortnight ago, we had this conversation. And that is where, for me, as a young man who is passionate about this country, I worry about the age bracket of people who make decisions for me. So reducing cost would then mean, which would cost us more, physical transmission of election results or electronic transmission, which would cost us more, electronic voting that Kaduna State has repeatedly experimented, or this huge amount of money we spend on printing all kinds of security, what they call sensitive and non-sensitive materials, most times from abroad. We ship them. When Jaga was to hold his first election, he said he brought in about 17 Boeing 747 cargos. That was more than the entire shipment in a year, just to bring in election materials.
And for many of those materials, especially, for instance, the voters' card, the form,
the sensitive material, yes,
for the voting,
yes.
An analysis was given by an expert earlier here too, that for most of those voting, printing ballot papers, it ends up wasted because it's not going to be used eventually.
Yes.
He gave an analysis that out of, say, maybe 100 million ballot papers that will be printed, you may not end up using up to 50.
Yeah, and because they sometimes, what they do is to err on the side of caution. So if there are 100 million people, it is safe to print 150. Anything could happen. At the point of transmission, conveying those materials, if the vehicle is involved in an accident and that condemns, you have to immediately make provisions. In so many other areas, we saw inconclusive election. They will not have the luxury of going back to issue new contracts. So they have to resort to what they have on the background and recalibrate for those inconclusive elections, for a repeat and all of that. So it is usually safe that if you need 100 million, you do 200 million. So it's correct. If everything goes as planned and 100 million copies of what you have printed ended up not being used, that is a colossal waste. Things you can basically would have done with your electronic form is just to recalibrate and you go ahead with it again.
Now, how much are we expecting from, in this proposal, how much are we expecting to go into capital expenditure?
Yeah, so all of the extra spending, ideally, they are saying will go into capital expenditure, which is some kind of relief. Well, if you like, especially to complete ongoing projects where spendings have been on for like 3-4 years. To be fair, that looks like a good deal. But it is a critical balance between how much more should we borrow? How much more debt can we carry? Because the reality today is if we are earning 100 naira as a country, we are using 95 naira to pay back our debt. So in the actual sense, you are just what, 5 naira. That's our reality.
Terrible.
Living on debt. Well, that's sad. Well, we thank you for coming on the program this morning. We'll end the review here for now so that we can take a look at other discussions on the program. We've been speaking with Sunday Michael Ogu, the Deputy Business Editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure as always.
Let's take this quick break, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the other stories that made the headlines as well. This time around, having it as a discussion with our guests. Pressure is mounting on President Buhari to probe Bagudu Obi others who were named in a recent investigation by Pandora Papers. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people. Loved ones they must protect. The journey they must take.
This is the spot, a marking signifying the starting point of the dam.
No, somebody? No, sorry. 40. No compensation has been given to any community member, and no place has been earmarked for their relocation.
Since why they go, they never come back.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed. But for many years, the story has remained the same. This is the site of the proposed hydroelectric power station in Mambila. But the irony is, no construction has even commenced yet.
Welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. It's now time for the discussion segment of the show, and we'll be looking into Pandora Papers investigation. And we have Adebayo Hassan, an investigative reporter with Premium Times, to discuss this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's begin with asking this Pandora Papers investigation. How did this even come about, this shocking revelation that we are seeing? One will say, well, some will say it's still an allegation and all of that until a court of competent jurisdiction found the person's named guilty and all of that. How did this come about?
Yeah, thank you. As you may have now seen in the news across the world, the Pandora Papers project is a 617 journalist and 151 media outlet strong collaborative investigation into a vast amount of offshore secrets of the powerful and the super rich, including many Nigerians, which concern us specifically here in this part of the world. There are leaked records, from 14 secrecy sellers across the world. And the journalists, cooperating with ICIJ on this project, believe that it's in the interest of the public to track down sources, review public records some more, and, disclose findings from these records, because we believe it would be a significant contribution towards effort against illicit financial flows, which is a very big problem affecting, us in this part of the world. So, contribution to efforts against illicit financial flows is a major motivational variable, behind this work.
And now, a few Nigerians were mentioned, in that investigation. Are you surprised that we are picking out Nigerians from such investigation?
we are not surprised, absolutely. We are not surprised because it's not the first time we have got such leaks. You know, you remember we have Paradise Papers and the biggest before now. By the way, Pandora Papers is the biggest collaboration of journalists in history. But before that, we have Panama Papers. So we had Nigerians there. In Paradise Papers, we had Nigerians there. So seeing Nigerians in Pandora's Papers, you know, it's not anything of surprise. But you also know that Nigerians, you know, we commonly know that we have corrupt officials, you know, but these things are sometimes just vaguely known, you know. So we had our knowledge. So what we are only doing now is to put facts to it and give the people the kind of information they need to demand accountability. Also for the authorities to, like Code of Conduct Bureau, like AFCC, you know, the information they need to act. So they can no longer say, oh, we don't know, you know, so.
So now, how has these investigations helped in the past with, you know, I know a couple of Nigerians that were named in the past in these investigations, Panama investigation, Pandora and all of that. How much response have we gotten from people in authority, the people responsible for prosecuting those persons to those investigations, and has it yielded any result?
It's in terms of response from the authorities, I think it's very abysmal. You know, no one has been prosecuted, but we are very much aware that a number of Nigerians named in Panama Papers, you know, were and are still under investigation. We don't know why it's been so delayed. You know, from what we have heard, there are renewed efforts. Even before these Pandora Papers, there are renewed efforts, you know, to look at these assets tucked away in secrecy heavens, you know, from EFCC, CCB, you know. So our expectation is that with the Pandora's Papers now, the pressure will now even be more, you know, on the authorities to act. But I think above all else, the citizens, you know, the media, the civil society groups, we have got a duty. We are duty bound to step up pressure on the authorities to act. Yeah, and that's why I commend what Daily Trust did this morning, their front page. That's very fantastic, joining this effort because it's about public good.
Okay.
You know.
Now, following this investigation, many Nigerians will keep their eyes open to see that something happens, like a form of response. And as journalists, we have that responsibility to keep talking about an issue until we get a form of impact.
Absolutely.
And as you've mentioned, we've not really seen much from Nigerian authorities following some of these investigations we've seen over time. Now, do you think we need to keep talking about such issues, you know, in order to get more responses from institutions?
Absolutely, yes. I believe that we must keep talking about it. One of the things that Nigerian officials, you know, corrupt people generally think is that perhaps because Nigerians have a lot of issues to deal with, so they forget things easily, you know. They will just say, oh, don't worry, in 1 week, in 2 weeks, everything is forgotten. But as media houses, we have to keep talking about this thing. If somebody who is accused of wrongdoing without denying it, without authority acting on it, if tomorrow it comes out to say, oh, if talking about anti-corruption and all that, we have to remind maybe second paragraph so that, however, this person, so we have to let them know that you can't do anything and go away with it. If the government is not charging you, we will punish you in our own opinions for it.
Okay. Now, ICIG shared, you know, some of the recovered files with over 130 media houses, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Would you say this is a new era for collaborative journalism?
Yes, not so new, because the hallmark of ICIJ work is actually collaboration, you know, and it's not only ICIJ, you know, like between countries. Like we also have this bilateral, no, let me say because we are not countries, but direct collaboration between media houses across the world. You know, so I was going to make a statement, you know, on Twitter this morning that what this Pandora Papers project, what it has done, you know, for us in Nigeria is that it reminds us that as journalists, we have to rise above these scoops, ego-seeking, you know, stories. You know, it would be really nice if Daily Trust, Premium Times, Punch channels, you know, we come together, we collaborate on something. You know, look at what the kind of impact that will have if like 4 media houses, you know, collaborate to do a single and say 1 p.m. on Tuesday, we are publishing together, and that's the news across the country. You know, so I think collaboration is something we have to like consider. It's not just about any individual glory. If truly it's about public good, it's about acting in the interest of our citizens in Nigeria, we have to come together. We have to share files and work as professionals. Don't leak documents and all that, you know.
Okay.
All right. Now, what would you say to those who would say that, well, all this information is fabricated? It's not genuine. It's not true. All of these things. What would you say to somebody like that who have doubts over this investigation?
Well, even people doubt the existence of God. You know, there are people who are atheists, but it takes a ruler mind, you know, very unenlightened mind to say that. And I would just consider them inconsequential, because this is something that is breaking across the world, that has elicited reactions from world leaders. And in the case of Nigeria, if it's fabricated, we've done 4 stories already in Nigeria on Peter Obi, on Atiku Bagudu, the Kebbi State Governor, this morning on Stella Hodua, a current senator, and also Bello Koko, the MPA chief. You know, we did that of Obi on Monday. It's now 3 or 4 days now. We should have been sued. You know, he should have reacted in his own name. And we interviewed him. We had an in-person interview with him, asked him this question. He didn't deny them, only claimed ignorance of the law. You know, we contacted Atiku Bagudu. He didn't reply to us directly, but he had to hire a London lawyer to do that. So what's fabrication in that? And
so I think in the case of Bagudu, people will be kind of surprised at you know, a corruption allegation towards him because of some of the projects he has done in Kebbi State. One would say he has been doing really well and would not expect this coming now.
Well, but you know, much of what we are saying about Atiku Bagudu is about his background, where he's coming from, what was he doing before he became...
His role in the Abacha loot.
His role in the Abacha loot and his current efforts to hide these billions. You know, so we don't have facts about what he's currently doing in Kebbi State. You know, but we are talking about what he did previously in helping Abacha to plunder Nigeria, and how he's, you know, moving from jurisdiction to jurisdiction to hide the money, which is the current issue he's still doing now. You know, trying to structure offshore holding so that nobody would know and they will not seize the assets from him. So that's what we brought out in our report.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in that report, I also saw something about all the allegations against him and all of that have been cleared, given the fact that he played a major role in recovering some of the monies during the former president's administration, Olusegun Obasanjo, and all of that. Does that not suffice to say that, I mean, his hands are clean now, based on that?
No, we don't consider that as having his hands clean. You know, he had an agreement with the Olusegun Obasanjo, which was a secret thing. It was confidential. So even at that, we have a responsibility to say that, okay, this thing happened, which means an admission of guilt. So that Obasanjo took a pragmatic step, you know, because the government at the time didn't know where these monies were stashed. So they needed to, like, okay, let's strike a deal. We'll drop charges, then, you tell us where it is. So that does not nullify the fact that he participated in the plunder of Nigeria, and the matters are still ongoing because there are still forfeiture litigations going on against him. You know, so as is governing Kebbi State, he's also involved in litigations across the world, you know, trying to keep the money.
Okay, now this brings me to this question. We have seen, you know, the normal kind of journalism here and there every day. What makes investigative journalism extra?
Yeah, well, you see the journalism a word, investigative journalism a phrase. So that's extra. You know, somebody may come to us now and say, I have done this road, you know, press release. You know, one of the things we do as journalists is to make information go out there. You know, but anybody can do that, especially in this era of all this Facebook. You know, anybody can do that. But we should also ask questions about: did they truly do it? How much did they spend? Who is the contractor and all that? So going that behind to check these things is investigation. You know, and that is how you can give people the information they need to demand accountability.
Okay, so Adebayo, what would be your expectation from lawyers, you know, civil society organizations and all of that? From what we are seeing here, they are demanding special panel to be set to investigate that. But we have seen that in the past and all of that. And it hasn't really. Sometimes some of these issues are brought on and they are swept under the carpet, some will say. So what would be your expectation?
Yeah, I think mounting pressure cannot be enough until actions are taken.
Right.
Yes, we have to step up the pressure. But yeah, if government is constituting panel, maybe it's fine. But the issues are clear. We have agencies with responsibility for this issue. We have an agency that is responsible for issues of asset declaration, for issues of code of conduct. Invite these people, you know, ask them questions. You know, I've given you leads already. So why do we need to, why does anybody even need to like push anybody to do their work? You know, the matters are clear. Just do your work. So we must continue to mount that pressure on them.
Another issue is with the legal system. Being a serving governor now, with the whole immunity clause and everything, do you think that this will pull through? I mean, as soon as Nigerians will want
it to. That's one thing about Nigeria's law regarding immunity, you know. So nothing can be done. But I always believe that actions are not only for the government to take, but also for citizens too. You know, in our society, we must evolve a kind of civic culture that frowns on corruption, on sharp practices. So even if you are not prosecuted, when you are no longer received well on the basis of what you have done, you know, that's enough deterrent. You know, in our villages, a local government chairman, maybe after 6 months, a local government chairman who is earning maybe 200,000 naira will go build massive duplex in a village, and on top of that, it will still become Otumba of that village. That's like saying that corruption is a normal thing. Nobody is asking question, where have you got this money? But when our people, our society, when we stop welcoming this kind of sharp practices, you know, people with unexplained wealth, they will know, even if I steal the money, who am I impressing? Nobody will give me chieftains. Nobody will say, hey, Babao, in the village.
But isn't that a challenge for us, you know, looking at the poverty level in the country?
Yeah, it's a challenge for us, but we have enough enlightened people. Many of the people who have tried, you know, though failed to discredit our report, they are not poor people. Many of them are educated people, you know, people who have gone to school, people who are working. But maybe for sectional reasons, for political reasons, they just had to like switch lane. Like what we didn't say, like, oh, they didn't say he's corrupt, he stole. We didn't say he stole money, Peter Obi stole money. We said that Nigeria's law says this, he did this, and that's breach of the law. That's very clear. You know, so it's not just about poverty, it's not just about ignorance. You know, so people just want to do what, because we have seen educated people who defend corrupt people. You know, who say, oh, it's anti-North, oh, it's anti-Yoruba, oh, it's anti-Igbo. You know, and these are educated people. These are people who are working.
All right, we will be taking a quick break now, and then when we come back, the discussion will continue. Adebayo is still with us in the studio. Please join us again.
My name is Samuel Dada. Yakubu Isa, ana mana kabila jeje. Anyani Mufa. Steven Umaru. A wannan harkar ce muke dan samun abinci, an muke taimaka mu wasu da yawa. Looking for private jobs. Sometimes you get employed and the process of payment, you know, you undergo some kind of stress.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, a load of 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day. For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are in the studio, of course, and discussing this issue, the pressure mounting on President Buhari to probe Bagudu Obi and others. And we have in the studio Adebayo Hassan, investigative reporter, Premium Times. Now, this report came by, was published by Premium Times in collaboration with Pandora Papers. Now, a whole lot we are saying about Nigeria's assets abroad. One really wonders, how do these public officers circumvent the process and acquire assets outside the shores of Nigeria, despite all the provisions that there are in the laws?
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Interestingly, we published a couple of reports, you know, with our partners in the UK Finance Uncovered on what we call Nigerian secret properties in the UK, you know. One, in the UK, if you are a public official in Nigeria, or you are a politician in Nigeria, you will be treated as a PEP, politically exposed person. Therefore, there will be enhanced due diligence checks on you if you want to buy a property in your own name in London. They will be asking about how you source your money and all that, which you may not be able to scale, you know. So what they will do, therefore, is to go to a secrecy haven, maybe BVI, Singapore, you know, Seychelles, register a share company there. It's that now, they will now route money from here to that share company in the offshore. That company will now go to London to buy the property. So in the UK, you know, they have tax loopholes. You know, they have loopholes in their laws too. A foreign company can buy property without anybody asking who is the ultimate beneficial owner of this company. So Nigerian or Africans or anybody, they can hide behind these secret companies and anonymously buy the property. So renters, sales, and all that, from any proceeds from that company will still flow back to them ultimately. So it's a classic example of illicit financial flow. So one of the things we are trying to push, is that this kind of law, in the UK is changed. So that if any foreign company is coming, they will ask, who is the owner? And then they will be able to raise questions about, where have you sourced your money? What are you doing? So back to your question specifically, Nigeria has got issues of having to borrow money and all that, whereas we have suspicious funds, flowing across the world linked to properties abroad. I think it may not be enough, but Nigeria has to step up efforts to collaborate with some countries towards asset recovery. With the kind of what we have done, like this morning we published with Finance Uncovered, that hundreds of Nigerians, they own UK properties secretly through these offshore companies.
But I recall that there was this agreement between Nigeria and some countries. There was this kind of MOU that was agreed upon as far as to fight corruption and all of that.
Money laundering.
Yes, and money laundering. That open agreement where if you have Nigerians abroad doing some illicit stuff, they can be arrested and handed over to Nigeria and all of that. With all that agreement, is it not yielding any result?
Yes, it could be very helpful. But these people, offshore economy is a shadow economy. It's something separate on its own. Both the UK, for instance, and Nigeria don't know the owners of these offshore companies. That's why it's a very serious issue. You can do anything with it. You can do anything criminal with it. They don't know. So the only thing they deal with is just the name, maybe ABC BVI Limited. That's what they deal with. So what we have done now is to disclose the identities of the owners of these companies owning these properties, and then authorities can then go after them. In one of our reports today on Sela Hodwa, as a minister, as aviation minister, just within a month, he bought 4 houses with £6.7 million, as a minister before she was sacked in 2014. She bought that. She couldn't have been able to do that using her own name directly. If she had done that, any agreement with the UK could have been triggered. Even UK on their own, they would do some due diligence checks, which may now make it difficult for her, to have acquired those properties. So she had to go through Seychelles, to buy the properties secretly, anonymously. So nobody would know that she's the ultimate beneficial owner of those houses, and CCB Nigeria, what could they have done? They will not know. So one of the things Nigerian officers do is that, Nigeria law says that if you are acquiring any property as a government official, it must be attributable to fair henny, to your legitimate henny, But if you don't know that I own this asset, how would you come after me?
Now, this investigation that was done by Pandora Papers dates back to as early as 2010 and even before that. How come you have this kind of activity going on and the public hasn't heard about it until now? And yet, these people who are probably vying for political offices and all of that, are supposedly meant to go through some kind of scrutiny before they eventually, become what they become.
Yeah.
So how is all of this swept under the carpet and nobody sees it?
Yeah. The issues covered in the Pandora Papers, span decades, but the actual investigation took 2 years. So since 2019, we have been sifting through the files, the records, and not leaking, you know, nobody knowing means maybe it's something about the professionalism, you know, of the partners, of the journalists involved. Nobody knew. I'm even sure not spouses of the partners of the journalists involved until maybe October 2nd this year.
All right. The response here from our anti-corruption agencies here is the EFCC is silent, and the ICPC, CCB said they are studying the report. Is that the report of the Pandora Papers that they are studying?
Yeah, apparently that's what Daily Trust reported, and I think it's a fantastic job that Daily Trust has done. You know, getting through to these people and asking them what you are doing. You know, they have said that they are still studying the report. So maybe in the days ahead, other media houses or Daily Trust again will ask them that, okay, where are you now in your studies? More names have been uncovered. Where are you now? But I think something is going to happen this time around. You know, we have a government that touts anti-corruption resolve. You know, so if you don't do anything about this, how do you come out and say that you are one anti-corruption champion or something? You know, when clear issues are mentioned. You know.
Well then, thank you so much, Adebayo. We'll be taking a quick break now, and then when we come back, the Daybreak continues. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. This is Daybreak, reaching you from Trust Television, and we're speaking with Adebayo Hassan, investigative reporter with Premium Times, over the recent discovery and investigation on the allegations leveled against some political office holders here in Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is in need of funds and money, which is why we are seeing the government borrowing over and over again. There's this proposal about 2022 budget, which is going to have like a deficit of over 7 trillion naira. What are the opportunities there for Nigeria to, you know, access some of these looted funds abroad? Specifically, for instance, the Abacha loot. Where have we gone so far with, you know, recovering some of these assets?
Yeah, regarding the Abacha loot specifically, I think a global hunt for the funds, you know, are still ongoing, and I think Nigeria and its partners, United States, Switzerland, and other countries, you know, they've come very greatly in recovering some of these funds, but some still remain, including the one Atiku Bagudu is trying to keep. So we should step up efforts to get the money back. And on others, you know, as we have reviewed, you know, in the Pandora Papers, Nigeria should investigate these hundreds of assets. You know, we reported hundreds of assets this morning in the UK. Nigeria should investigate the sources of funds contributed to buy these properties by Nigeria. If they have reason to believe that, oh, these are country's money, these are suspicious funds, they should find a way to work with the United Kingdom, you know, towards a recovery of the asset.
Okay. Now, finally, what are your thoughts about investigations, and responses to some of the investigations, out there?
Yeah, like I did say earlier, generally, when we do investigation, whether Premium Times or any other media house, it's about digging to give the public the kind of information they need to hold the authorities to account. So the kind of expectation we expect is for the citizens to own the product of the investigation and use this as basis to ask questions, and for the authorities specifically, they now also have the tools, the kind of ingredients they need to do their work. They should use these leads and do their work. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been speaking with Adebayo Hassan, investigative reporter at Premium Times. Thank you for making our time to be with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Next time.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to a collaborative project.
Yeah, we should.
All right, then. We'll go on a quick break again, and then when we come back, our second guest will be joining us. We're talking about Awal Rafsanjani, who is the Executive Director of CISLAC, and he'll be joining us to talk about the same issue. Stay with us.
Welcome back. You are still watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are still discussing Pandora Papers investigations where some prominent Nigerian politicians and businessmen were uncovered in illicit financial dealings. And we have in the studio Awal Musa Rafsanjani, the Executive Director, Civil Society for Legislative Advocacy, CISLAC. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, so, first of all, we'd like to get the thought of the CISLAC on these recent discoveries, as far as these investigations are concerned. Illicit financial flow, this is money laundering and all of that. What's the thought of CISLAC?
Well, for us in CISLAC, which is the national chapter of Transparency International, we are not surprised at all, because all the indicators are out there for some people to continue to commit the kind of fraud they are committing, in the public sector. Because this is not the first, report. We have a similar report, which was the Panama paper. Many Nigerians, public officials serving at that time were indicted or were appointed in that report. Nigerian government did not do anything in terms of investigation, in terms of taking appropriate, action to ensure that they block leakages and they carry out further investigation to see the extent at which public funds have been, diverted. Secondly, where we are not surprised is because the looseness at which the whole system is in terms of poor financial regulation and enforcement by the Central Bank of Nigeria also will continue to create this kind of situation. Thirdly, the refusal to empower the Code of Conduct to properly investigate claims of asset declaration by public official is also something that will continue to lead us to where we are today.
If you say empower the Code of Conduct,
yes,
what do you
because
mean?
the Code of Conduct, they have the law, but they did not have the enabling human and financial resources to investigate claims of various public office holders' asset declaration. Many of their assets are not in Nigeria, and you need to verify those assets. Some of them, they do what they call anticipatory declaration. You get into office, you estimated that you are going to, in the next 4 years, you are going to steal at least $10 billion US. Then you just simply say you have $10 billion US. And because there's no any mechanism to verify these claims, so when some people come to office, they make effort to steal such kind of money. So that is why I say, if they are empowered with human, experts that can investigate claims by public office holders, you will be able to know that. Yeah, again, also, that the political will to deal also with, airing individuals and companies is not also there. Currently, Nigerian, Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative have come up with various reports showing how companies are evading taxes, that are not remitting taxes. And instead of government to make effort to collect those taxes, government is rushing to go and borrow money. So the will is not actually there. Again, you have a National Assembly that is also being paid by taxpayers' money heavily, and part of their responsibility is to carry out, oversight, and failure to carry effective and responsible oversight is also leaving us with the gaps on the way companies and individuals are also continuously, diverting public taxpayers' money. So illicit financial flow happens with connivance of financial institutions, with the connivance of multinational corporation companies, as well as their local agents. And if government is not putting measures to ensure that the identity of those who are hiding or who are behind those companies are not known and established, then you will continue to have this anonymous persist. Thank God that we have beneficial ownership register, but we need to have the political will to make the KAMA Act 2020 as amended to work. This is the only way we can be able to identify those people behind many of the companies who are actually public servants or civil servants.
Okay. Now, we've seen names of some of these people being uncovered over the years, and the federal government is bearing numb ears to some of these issues because we don't get to see them prosecuted. We don't get to see, the end result. What kind of image, does this create, for Nigeria with the international community?
No, the image is a terrible image in the sense that the government had committed itself to say they want to fight corruption. If they have not even said that they are going to fight corruption, people will not even bother to hold them, to account for their commitment. But they made so much noise about fighting corruption, not knowing that fighting corruption is not about talk show. It is about putting system in place, mechanism, to ensure that you prevent the corruption from happening, and when it happens, to also sanction people who were involved. But now, because of the party affiliation and loyalty to, some people in government, people will commit these atrocities, and their case simply once they come to ruling party, you don't hear anything. This is a very terrible message that Nigeria is sending to the international community. So I think, we need to ensure that we strengthen our institutions, and we also have responsible and capable persons occupying different, position in the various public institutions in Nigeria, because the failure to have a more vibrant, more strong, institutions that can do its work irrespective of the power that is there is what is also causing some of these problems. So if you have serious-minded people manning public institutions, they will not be looking at this person is our party member, this person is loyal to XYZ, but they will do their work according to the Constitution, and they will not involve themselves into political political consideration. But one of the major challenges that we have today in Nigeria is political corruption. Political corruption strives and allow the kind of things that we are seeing: outright public diversion of funds, outright impunity, outright refusal to follow the due process. We have seen so many of it. This is the reason why what has been happening in Nigeria is not good even for the future generation. Because as a result of that, look at the misery the country had found itself. As a result of this diversion of public funds, development has become deficit in Nigeria. Because if resources are budgeted or are earmarked to bring water, to improve our healthcare system, to improve education and infrastructure, and some people just decide to siphon these funds, definitely you don't expect any development in Nigeria. Secondly, as a result of this also diversion of public funds, insecurity has increased because there's no way you would budget resources that is meant to augment or to strengthen our security sector, and then some people siphon this money and we expect more efficiency, professionalism, modern equipment to fight the kind of terror we are fighting, the insurgency. That is why the whole world is laughing at us, because we are not lacking the human and the financial resources. But what we are suffering is this outright corruption in the security sector, in the public sector, that no one seems to be willing to decisively, in all honesty and sincerity, deal with this matter.
Okay. All right. Now, what kind of investigation goes on when, for instance, it's an electioneering period and we have all people coming in as candidates for political parties and all of that? I mean, for this recent discovery or revelation shows that we have people who are occupying public offices with such records and prior to their ascension to those offices, is it that there is no any form of investigation that is carried out to ensure that they do not have such dubious records, or what's the quality of investigation that happens?
Now, everything unfortunately has turned to politics. You have seen people that even government itself investigated for corruption. Once they decamp to their party, you don't hear any case anymore. And that is sending a terrible wrong signal that people you have yourself accused of looting and stealing, now, simply because they have decamped to your party, you are publicly coming to take photographs with such kind of person. In the fight against corruption, that is demoralization. Secondly, it is not also ethical. So whatever you are doing, you have to remember that you have responsibility to ensure that you lead, the public with good image and reputation. Number one. Number two, it is very clear that money laundering is associated with election that is going on in Nigeria, because the system of the political party nomination has been totally commercialized, privatized, and purely it is about how much money you bring to the system, irrespective of whether it is clean money, whether it is a dirty money, whether it is whatever money, whether it is money that is from the public trust funds. You carry the money. As long as you can bribe your way, you can just get elected. And that is why a lot of competent, qualified, patriotic, decent, non-corrupt Nigerians had been totally alienated from coming into position of leadership in this country, because the system is pure with this dirty money. And that is why CISLAC have been working along together with other 21 countries in the world to improve how dirty money in politics is used, by ensuring that it campaign against it. It called the attention of the authority to ensure that necessary action are taken so that governance will not be run on the manner of stolen funds, and also continues to institutionalize stealing, because once they put in the money into the election, they also expect to make returns or to make more profit from it. So it will be a vicious cycle. And if you want to clean the governance system in the country, you must stop using dirty money into electioneering in Nigeria. There are limits at which campaign funds should be used. But because of the failure to impose that, and because the culprit who will have been the one to impose it are also involved in it, it is difficult for you to see any action. So civil society, media will continue to draw the attention of the authority to take more cogent action to investigate misuse of our law by fueling dirty money into politics. Because if you continue to do this, you cannot expect decent, responsible, patriotic, committed, developmental leaders to emerge in any of the political parties.
Now, many will say, cleansing Nigeria's governance system is going to take a while. Does this mean we're going to require international intervention to do that?
I tell you, it's all about commitment, seriousness, and putting system in place. When this government came on board, they said they want to fight corruption. We expected that the government should have put in place team of like minds at local government level, at state level, and federal level, to be able to have the required number of people that can actually drive the fight against corruption. But when you reduce it to just mere talk show, it will be difficult for you to do that. So All I'm saying is that it is very possible, if there's a seriousness to work towards reducing the kind of collapse system that we have. This can be done, like I said, through identifying individuals at local, state, and national level to be part of this driver. But you cannot sit down in one place, or you think that by having EFCC and ICPC is the only way to fight corruption. No. Fighting corruption involves virtually everybody, whether you are a mechanic, whether you are a police, whether you are a security man, whether you are a media, whether you are a civil society, whether you are a public officer, whether you are a legislator. Everybody must play a role to minimize the kind of consequences of corruption that has brought us, which of course is basically, you can see insecurity, you can see lack of development, you can see collapse of ethical value system in Nigeria. These are all the consequences of corruption, and because it has been institutionalized, that is why it is eating us by the day.
All right. We'll be going on a break now, and then when we come back, the discussion will continue. Our Rafsanjani will still be with us in the studio. Please stay with us.
Get latest updates on current topical issues and breaking news by downloading the Trust TV mobile app on your Android devices. Go online, click Google Play Store, search Trust TV, install the app, and get doses of unfiltered information on happenings all over the world in your pocket. Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
African fabric is finding its way to the global stage. But Nigeria is losing out on big textile spenders as the local industry faces imminent extinction.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
From over 180 textile mills in the 70s, only about 25 mills now operate at less than 40% capacity.
I'm an employee of Arewa Textile PLC before it closed. After a month, I was just like a madman.
In a day, they laid off 4,500.
The once thriving sector struggles to compete with an annual import of $4 billion.
Smuggling is the order of the day. For manufacturers, we cannot compete.
We visit the nation's textile hubs to seek answers to why the sector has failed to return to its glory days despite government's intervention.
Well, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are discussing illicit financial flows, where the Pandora investigation uncovered some businessmen and politicians, in some scandals.
We have our Rafsanjani, the Executive Director of CISLAC, in the studio, sharing his thoughts, reacting to the recent discoveries. Now, there's a bit of a dilemma here that despite this robust investigation that was conducted, it's also impossible now to go to court to prosecute some of the persons named in this investigation. For instance, we have a serving governor, among these persons named who enjoys immunity provided for in the Constitution. What's the approach? What's the best approach to this? How can this matter be followed through, even by the Nigerian authorities, even if they are willing to do that?
Well, I think we are seriously misunderstanding this immunity thing. Immunity does not mean that you cannot be completely investigated. Yes, you might not be prosecuted. But that does not stop governments if they have reliable and credible evidence against the atrocities that somebody is doing. So, okay, because you have immunity, you can then order and be killing people, and then nothing is going to happen? No, it doesn't work that way. So it is misunderstanding of even the immunity cover. The immunity cover is simply because if you are a governor, for example, according to the people that drafted and conceptualized the immunity, that it will be distraction for you every day to be in court, to be this and that, But that is not to say that you cannot be investigation. Investigation can commence immediately, and there are a lot of evidence to show, even in the past, linkage of this kind of thing. Like I've said, the Panama paper came, and many high politically exposed Nigerians were mentioned. The government did not do anything. Secondly, you also have associate of the person even accused. What stop you from also, through your investigation, find out those associated? Because one person cannot do it alone. He or she must have worked in consortium with other people. What stop those other people who don't have immunity to investigate further? And when you find them, when you find credible evidence, you prosecute them. But to keep quiet is sending a terrible wrong signal. It shows that the fight against corruption will continue to be a lip service. And this is also a reminder, and also something that government spokesperson should minimize abusing the intelligence of Nigerians. When we come out to say that there's a corruption in public sector, some government spokesperson will come to deny the report that, for example, Transparency International brings. But you can see that this is not done by Transparency International. It's done by another set of, investigators, pointing out the same direction that Transparency International is talking about, that there's indeed corruption in the public sector. And that is why you see public officials will divert public funds and hide it. Now, despite all this, we make recommendation to government to block leakages, but they are not interested. They will simply dismiss that, no, what we are saying is not, but the ordinary person on the street, he or she is feeling the pain of the corruption. So because they have a rented, time, they can come and talk anything and go. And this is simply because also the country has not also put in place system that will checkmate excesses and abuses of public officials. Because if you are there, even if you are a spokesperson of the government, you must say the truth. Because you have been sworn in to do the right thing, not to propagate lies and fabricate stories. So you must be honest, sincere in your public dealings as a public officials. That's number one. Number two is to say that, look, it is important that as we move on this matter, the anti-corruption agencies should work closely with their counterparts in other countries to aid, in further investigation and coordination on this, including even tracing of assets. We have been supporting government. We are not consultant. We are committed, patriotic Nigerians. We use our own time, our own resources to go and provide information, credible information to government, for the government to investigate, to take action. We have been to various countries in the world, from European to England to America to United Arab Emirates, pointing out Nigerian assets in those places. For Nigeria to take action to get this asset returned. But when this asset is returned, you can see that it is another round of stealing and looting.
Yeah, so at this point, I would like to say, or I'd like to ask that how important is the collaboration between government and, civil society organizations like yours and the media, in this kind of investigations? How can there be a synergy in this fight? How can there be partnership, instead of looking at each other as enemies?
Okay, if you look at this report is basically conducted by civil society and media. So you can see how important and how relevant civil society and media are in order to support government's sincere effort to fight corruption. So if any government that is serious will not be enemy to civil society and media, will want to work with civil society and media to be able to find information, because we in civil society and media, we have no power to prosecute anybody, but we can make this credible, research investigation to give to government to say, hey government, you look at this, investigate further. We're not even saying act on it. Investigate further, to be able to ensure that you block leakages and put sanction mechanism against anybody that continue to perpetrate this kind of atrocities against the people of Nigeria.
Now, before we go, I recall that over the years, Transparency International in particular have, come up with some issues like this, and we see the federal government debunking it and saying, no, Transparency International are just making up claims. What would you, say about that?
Yeah, this is what I was trying to say, that look, we've been issuing different reports, and instead of government that say that they want to fight corruption, to say, okay, let us see this report, let us see where gaps are, let us see what recommendation you are putting forward, so that we can study it and also maybe take action on that. But when you come and outrightly deny that there's no corruption, like we have seen many of the so-called spokespersons are coming to talk, this is something that is happening at local government level. This is something that is happening at state level. This is something that is happening at the federal level. So even if you say you are a spokesperson of the president and you are dealing with the federal, do you control what goes on in the local government? Do you control what goes on at the state level? So instead of blanket, dismissal of the fact that, we say that there are some corruption challenges in our public sector system, instead of denying it, why can't you have a look at it? Because you only speak for the federal, you then speak for the local, and you then speak for the state. And if you all understand and that there's need for us to have, as a country, have a system that will reduce the level of corruption we are seeing in the country, I think any sincere and honest, patriotic government official will not dismiss report like this. What they will do is to say, okay, they will sincerely study it, and if there are any vital reason to take action, they should take action. So I think it is important, whether the government say they want to fight corruption or they don't want to fight corruption publicly, they must do it, because the law, the constitution, does not promote you as a public official to be a looter, to be covering up looters. So whether you say you are going to fight corruption or not, you did not have that immunity in the constitution to cover up and perpetuate corruption or cover up corrupt people simply because of party affiliation.
Okay. Thank you so much, Awal Musarraf Sanjani, the Executive Director, CISLAC, a civil society organization. And we have been discussing the Pandora investigations and the role of civil society, in providing solutions to some of these issues that we get to see in the news.
Yeah, very, very interesting conversations. And if you have missed, then you can catch up on our YouTube channel and also across all our social media handles. More details of all that we've discussed today. Quite a very, very interesting conversation on the show. Let's go on this quick break, and then when we come back, we'll wrap up the show. Please stay with us.
Suleiman, Aya, and Tari, all from the Sulubawa clan, with a unique wealth of culture and deep love for cattle, which truly reflects their sense of family. But over time, everything changes with no lands for grazing. Experience the incredible story of the Fulani people, loved ones they must protect, the journey they must take.
All right, thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining, you're watching Trust TV's Daybreak Show, and this is where we wrap up the show for today. But before we do that, we'll take a look at sports in 60 seconds. Take a look.
Hello and welcome to Trust Sports in 60 seconds. British heavyweight boxer Tyson Fury has called on Anthony Joshua to call it quit with boxing if he loses his rematch with Alexander Usyk. Roma striker Tammy Abraham and Chelsea left-back Ben Chilwell were called into England's squad for their forthcoming World Cup qualifiers on Monday. Erling Braut Haaland said on Monday he will miss Norway's upcoming World Cup qualifiers with a leg injury suffered while with his club, Borussia Dortmund. And finally, La Liga president Javier Tebas has said Barcelona could have kept Argentine star Lionel Messi if they had not signed Memphis Depay and Sergio Aguero. And that's all the top headlines on Trust Sports in 60 seconds. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow us across all social media.
Well, with that, we wrap up Daybreak on Trust Television. We've had quite an interesting discussion today, haven't we?
Really, very, very interesting discussions here about the illicit financial flow in Nigeria and the world over. Some Nigerians named in recent investigative report by Pandora Papers in collaboration with the Premium Times newspapers, and very interesting conversations. You may like to catch up, just go to our YouTube channel and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us across all social media handles for latest news updates. You can trust us with the news.
And more, indeed.
All right, my name is Ayuba Ilya, and I'm saying bye for now. Join us again tomorrow.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Thank you so much for watching.